Jonathan Davis is on the line. Jonathan.
Hello. I hope Ruth Lee is still listening to this because as a typical city economist, whether she's a liberal economist or a Keynesian economist...
No, she's not a Keynesian, no.
Yeah, whether she's liberal or Marxist Keynesian...
But she's Eld Star
She's
liberal. We don't mean Nick Clegg liberal. We mean
Adam
Smith
Indeed.
liberal.
We wouldn't
Indeed,
smear her in that way.
Yeah.
Indeed, early 19th century liberal, as in free market thinker.
Exactly.
So she's either a free market thinker or a Marxist Keynesian. It doesn't matter because she's not joining the dots. On the one hand, she correctly says that the government, the country, has a great problem in that you lot, and I mean you lot, the politicians, are borrowing £110 billion pounds a year to pretend that there isn't a problem. But on the other hand, she says, therefore we need low interest rates. Nothing could be further from the truth. First of all, the low interest rates that we have, by the way, it was an emergency rate that the previous governor and his lot set up. Hold on, 5 years ago it was an emergency. It's no longer an emergency, and yet we've still got it. Isn't that funny? And the reason why we've got it is because it helps the following. The reckless and the criminal lenders, the reckless borrowers, the political class, the bankers, the central bank. What it doesn't help is the majority of folk in the UK. 75% of the UK either don't have any debt or have small debt. It's only helping the minority.
Jonathan, you make that point very effectively. Thanks for doing that. Can I ask you a question? Because obviously you are plainly an economist. You have very strong views. We are going to shortly move on to this row about whether or not an independent Scotland could keep the pound. Just give us your take on that to warm us up for this topic.
Well, as an economist, wealth manager, and as a Scot, I can wholeheartedly say I don't care what they do. In answer to your question, however, technically, although they may not actually be able to use the pound as we use in England, Wales, Northern Ireland, they can actually link whatever currency they have to the value of the pound. Switzerland are doing it to the euro. The Mexicans are doing it to the US dollar, and so on. So they can do it if they want to.
And you obviously live down in London, I suspect, anyway. So
in Hertfordshire.
Yes, so you don't get a vote in that referendum, which is a curiosity. But how would you vote if you were back in the land of your fathers?
That is itself a good question. Scotland is populated and controlled generally by socialists and Marxists. And of course, we know that economically, socially, it doesn't work. There is not a single case in history where Marxism works. So I would vote against.
Well, I have to say, I think you might find a lot of people in Scotland shivering at the thought that they're under a Marxist rule. I see very little evidence of that myself.
But you were always saying, Kenneth, if I might remind you, that the thing about Alex Salmond is that you and he never disagreed about anything in terms of the economy and finance and all the rest of it.
I don't think a
Stalinist, as you are or were,
a Stalinist centrally planned economy doesn't work. We've all come to terms with that. Anyhow, we'll carry on taking your calls on the plan to hold interest rates at a historic low until after the next election.